What happens when the world gets turned on its head? We're forced to look inward, perhaps become fearful, sometimes lash out at others. While there are others in the world who don't give up hope because they believe in people. Join me, Kevin Tibbles, and Amy Goldberg for our new podcast, Believe in People, where we meet those who don't give up hope.
We are all surrounded by people who we think have made it, successful people.
Whether they're movie stars, athletes, or entrepreneurs, they all possess their very own secret sauce for making it.
But what is making it, and what are the responsibilities and pitfalls?
Today's guest is Rabbi Weiner, who not only is the founder of Authority Magazine, he's also the person who tests the ingredients for making it bake and seeking that perfect recipe. Well, first off, Yitzi, welcome to Believe in People.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for inviting me. It's a delight to be here.
Well, in our introduction to you, we talk about how you speak with people who have found success, entrepreneurs in their own sort of way of life, and you have the magazine. I guess the first question really should be, what is success? How do you define success? And how can I get it?
The question you're asking is probably among the most important questions every one of us could be asking. I think success really just means accomplishing your goal. And your goal is subjective to every single individual. So a person's goal could be to win a marathon. A person's goal can be to write a book. A person's goal can be to earn a PhD. And if they achieve their goal, they're successful. The default definition of success, kind of in the miasma of society, is making a lot of money. That's like the default, but we could toggle the defaults and make it a different definition. So to answer your question, success is of course subjective, and it all depends on where your goals are. I think success is really, really synonymous with accomplishment and achieving your goals. So our question is, what are our goals? I think most of us have the goal of being happy and content and leaving a legacy, living life with meaning, and making a difference, living for a purpose. Think deep down, think everyone would want that. I think as an example, if you would ask somebody, if you can become extremely wealthy, you can become a multi-billionaire, but you're going to be a nasty person. You have a binary choice. You become a multi-billionaire, become a nasty person, nasty, selfish person, or you'll have enough. You'll scrape by, but you'll have a life filled with meaning, and you'll be extremely kind. Most people would choose the latter rather than the former, because we all recognize that as many pleasures as we can buy with a lot of money, it's nothing compared to the pleasure of being good. There is a pleasure to be good. So back to your question, I think most of us ultimately want meaning, living for a purpose, living a legacy. And if that's our goal, then if we take steps towards achieving those goals, then we're successful.
And Yitzi, so speaking of success, what came first for you? I mean, you're a rabbi, you're an entrepreneur. Explain that transition, or not even a transition, that flow.
Sure. Well, they say that there's a saying that the necessity is the mother of invention. So that's certainly true in my case. So, I never dreamed that I would start a business. I always assumed that my career choice was going to be a teaching rabbi. I love teaching. I still love teaching. I think that I've had success in it, and so that was always my career path, to be a teaching rabbi. But just frankly, being a rabbi and teacher was very rewarding, extremely rewarding. It wasn't always financially rewarding. So I'm very blessed that I have 7 children, and when my 7th child was born, frankly, my salary just was. I knew my salary was never gonna be enough to be able to make us not struggle. So I just said, let me think of a business. Now, all my siblings are entrepreneurs, and what could I do to make money? So I turned to what I knew, which is writing. I was always a writer ever since 10th grade. My 10th grade teacher, Mr. Goldenberg, he inspired me to write. So I was able to find a way to turn writing into a career.
What have you discovered in this new career of yours? I mean, obviously, the teaching and writing go hand in hand in many ways, but for you, through the writing, through the magazine tell us a little bit about the magazine, and then tell us why you find that so fulfilling.
Okay, that's a great question. So Authority Magazine our purpose is to do in-depth interviews. So it's in-depth with leaders in 5 main verticals: social impact, wellness, business, technology, and entertainment. So basically we interview leaders in those 5 main verticals. But the common thread of all of the verticals, also that's one important point, within those 5 verticals, we have almost 300 different interview topics. So we talk about entire range of fascinating topics, and we have like robust interview series around each topic. So we have about 200 people who are interviewed around a certain topic, each of those 300 topics. We actually have more than 100,000 interviews now. But the common thread of all of our interview topics is how people with a large platform and people that have been blessed with material success, how they're using their platform and how they're using the community that they've built to make a positive difference. So we hope to kind of put them on the record, so to speak, to say, what are you doing? What are you doing to make a difference? What are you doing to use your blessings to bring positivity to the world? So I found that very meaning. I have a whole file of letters, of thank you letters, of feedback that people send after reading or participating in an interview, and we constantly hear that people are just inspired by reading our interviews, reading our stories, and that's very gratifying. When we started this, I sought out. I always felt that a lot of news is like junk food. It's addictive, but it doesn't really fill you up. It doesn't really make you satisfied. And I wanted to create a platform. I wanted to create a publication that would be more like whole food, something that would be nourishing and filling and stay with you. That's why our motto is: we believe that stories should be beautiful to the heart, mind, and eyes, or eyes, mind, and heart.
That's great. That's great, Yitzi. And so you're a writer, and so from writing, what happened? Was it you were writing for Thrive Global? Is Authority Magazine attached to Thrive? And that's Arianna Huffington. So what's that translation relationship like? How did that come about?
Actually, what happened was I was writing. This is my friend Jacob Maslow. He invited me. This is when I was a rabbi. He invited me to be writer for Huffington Post. So I was doing that for a while, and it was on a much smaller scale, but it was basically doing what I'm doing now, interviewing people with a large platform to see how they're using their platform to make a difference. And then Huffington Post eventually closed down their platform to everyone but who are paid contributors and staff writers. So that fizzled out. But then shortly afterwards, Arianna Huffington herself, she invited me to write for her new platform called Thrive Global. So I was very blessed to do that. This is right in the beginning when it was, we're just starting, and she started her platform on Medium platform, which we use now, and that's really where I became familiar with that. So that's really how it started. So in terms of our relationship with Thrive Global, we're not like officially connected, but we have a syndication relationship where a lot of our articles get syndicated there. So that's our relationship. We have a syndication partnership. So that's kind of how it started with Thrive, and then after doing that, my wife gave me the idea. She said, really, you could start your own publication you have all this relationship equity. And I always found that publicists were a gold mine of interesting people. Sometimes journalists keep publicists at an arm's length, but in my situation where I wanted to pursue interviews, I found publicists to be the greatest possible resource. So I always made sure to make relationships with publicists, and I had all this relationship equity with publicists when I was at Huffington Post and Thrive Global, and And then I said, you know what? If I create a new platform, I could use those relationships to start something from scratch, but not having to start from ground zero, but I can start from ground level 100 because I already have these relationships. So that we've been very blessed in that way.
Huh.
I guess at this part of the conversation, I should ask you, when you're talking about the 5 levels of people who you seek out, why don't you give us a few examples as to who some of these people have been and why they've agreed to talk to you?
Sure. So I want to make it clear that while we have interviewed a lot of famous people like Shaquille O'Neal and Mark Cuban and Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, and Paris Hilton and Kerry Washington and I can give you really a whole list of a lot of famous people, but really I don't like worship celebrity for its own sake. For me, the greatness of these people is that they are admired by millions and millions of people. And when someone like Shaquille O'Neal talks about how he uses his free time to volunteer and make a difference and create foundations and nonprofits, that's very inspirational for millions and millions of people. So that's why we've interviewed a lot of famous people. Again, I can give you a full list if you'd like. But I'll tell you, frankly, the reason why they agreed is because I asked their publicists, and I'm very blessed that they enjoyed what we're doing. And actually, in many cases, publicists reach out to us, and so they agreed. A lot of times, people say no, but when they say yes, it works out.
And you'd see, and that's what's so impressive about Authority Magazine. What the unique aspect to that is that you allow people to have a voice, and you allow people to really have others get to know them from a really intimate place. And there's I cannot believe how many writers you have, or those who you're interviewing. You said thousands. I mean, wow. And so how do you keep everything in order? I mean, what's the system like for you behind the scenes?
Sure. It's an excellent question. So I think I've been blessed that I'm good at systems. I'm good at organizing systems. So I'll tell you what we do is we currently have 30 interviewers, 30 writers. We have nine paid staff members with Authority Magazine. So for those 30 writers, we have almost 300 different topics. Every writer has their own designated portal. And then, so we start with email interviews. So each of the writers will draft interview questions and we do the questions in what I call, we want to create questions that are story containers. You could ask a question that, who's your favorite comedian, and then that'll be a short answer. But if you ask a question like, tell me the story of how you grew up, tell me a story of an interesting mistake that you made and then the lesson that you learned from it. Those questions are so open, and they necessitate a robust and thorough answer. So basically, we do interview questions that are like story containers, and then people will answer. We send out the question, people will answer them, and they upload it to the respective writer's portal. And then I found that so much time got wasted when people would just be following up. Okay, when's my interview going to be live? When's here's the interview. Could you upload it? That was so much of my time was basically just responding to emails. And I thought if we could make a way where everything's transparent, everyone knows, everyone's on the same page. So basically, I found that having like a tracking spreadsheet where everyone knows where their interview is and when it will be published, where the live links are, when it gets syndicated, that's really helped a lot. So we have a system where every writer has their own portal and their own tracker where so when you see it's live, and then I have a team that emails all the interviews out. So in a nutshell, really, it's a matter of trying to create a system where we cut back on repetitive tasks that could be eliminated.
Let me ask you this: we're all very familiar with personality-driven magazines, be it People, be it Hello, Inquirer, perhaps. These sorts of things. Now I'm going to ask you one of those questions like you were just describing earlier with regards to people opening up with more insight into themselves. And that is, what sets your magazine apart from those other ones?
Sure. I think number one, rather than focus on one article on a particular topic, we have comprehensive interview series around a topic. So let's say, People Magazine will do an amazing job, sharing, maybe, tips how this celebrity lost weight, maybe, So, but we have an entire series with maybe about 300 to 500 interviews about 5 things you need to know to achieve a healthy body weight and keep it permanently. Or let's do it for business, the 5 things we need to do to prepare for the future of work. And, hundreds of people, 500 people, 500 leaders would participate in that interview series. So they're all dealing with the same questions or similar questions. They all have entirely different answers. I think that's one difference is that, so instead of just one article on the topic, we have an entire interview series with hundreds of people talking about it. And that actually creates a community. We found many times that other people, let's say you have 300 people around a certain topic, sometimes they connect, and then they create like a small community. So I think that's one difference. I think also another difference is that we try our best to make sure all of our content is reader facing. So it's not so much not really about glamorizing the interviewee, but it's about how the interviewee can give actionable, practical advice for the reader. So the reader can go away not with thinking how great the interview is, but thinking, oh, wow, this is good advice that I can use in my own life. I think also another thing is that we particularly try to avoid politics because sometimes it just creates more division than good. And there are other publications that do great at politics. We try to focus on the white space that's not being addressed. So we try our best to make sure it's wholesome and upbeat and positive and not partisan, no one's being attacked or torn down. We just try to focus on just advice for people how they can improve the different parts of their lives and their lives.
And you'd see from that, is there a common denominator with the advice or not? Is there a sort of a similarity in the advice that one gives, like over the thousands and thousands of stories you've read? What would, let's say, a few of those pieces of advice be that are sort of common?
Yeah. One thing that's come up a lot is how to deal with rejection and setbacks. And that's a constant thing because that's part of the human experience is that we're all going to at some point experience setbacks. So that's like a common theme. And the common theme is that sometimes our setbacks can be the greatest teachers. We can learn the most by our mistakes. When we make a mistake and things we get thrown on our back, we learn the most. We learn even more from that than from success, because success, we don't always know what we did to achieve success, but it's from the failure. Okay, so this doesn't work. But don't do this again. So, I mean, I know my own experience when I made a mistake, and I'm constantly referring back to that experience 5 years later, is because I learned so much from. So much of what I do is kind of my new operating system was programmed by that mistake. So I wouldn't necessarily have done that just by looking at success, because again, there could be a myriad of things that I've done. I'm not sure which part worked. So that's a common thing that comes up a lot. Yeah, I can think of more.
Well, you're a rabbi. Do you find that you're training as a man of faith and also a man who teaches? Do you find that helps you in your endeavor? Do you find that you can find things within yourself to sort of tweak the questions that are being asked and to sort of perhaps reach deeper inside the person that you're speaking to?
I think so. So when as a rabbi, one of the focuses personally, what I always focus on is a word in a Jewish word, which is midos. Midos is character, and the basic idea is that if we all of us ultimately all the society's problems are manifestations of flaws in human character, and if we would each of us would improve our own character, polish our own heart, then we would create a collective society that's more refined and more polished, and ultimately more a healthier, thriving society. So I always talk. So that's been my theme in all my teaching, is how we can improve character. So it's that kind of transcends religion or belief. Just what can we do to become better people? What can we do to improve ourselves and become more patient, more kind, more thoughtful, more disciplined, more honest. So I think that idea really informs my questions, informs our interview questions. It's really about what can we do to improve ourselves and improve society. I think I've done a lot of interviews, and a lot of times people tell me that these questions really make them think, and the experience is like therapy, where they really are able to dig down into themselves and learn about themselves and self-reflect in a way that they haven't done before. So I think that's an expression of my training.
I think so too, Yitzi. I really do feel that, because you're a people person, and you're trying to, and you're listening and getting those clues from others. And I'm wondering, for Authority Magazine, what do you hope for? What's your sort of the next level for you, if there is one?
Yeah, I mean, my dream would be that, again, because we focus on interviews, and I could be wrong about this, but it's very possible that we're like the largest repository of interviews, because we only do interviews, and we've done 100,000. I would like it to be like an expected thing, something that everyone has a profile on LinkedIn, and people have a Gmail account. But it comes a normal thing. Okay, you have to do an interview with Authority Magazine to share your ideas. I would like that to be like a normal thing. But
I think you're there. Yitzi, I think you're there. Sorry, go ahead.
I think in the short,
I just wanted to say each week, as we draw to a close here, each week, because our program is called Believe in People, each week we ask this question of our guest, and I'm going to précis this question with this, and that is that we live in a pretty scary, messed up kind of world right now. You can talk about everything from war, which is going on in lots of places, the economy, which seems to be on the cusp, the pandemic, which we may or may not be crawling out of that hole, and a whole other myriad of mental challenges, physical. And yet here you are with your magazine talking to people who give their time, people who we say have made it in some way or another, financially or otherwise. There are a lot of people who have made it who aren't rich, but they've made it in here. Why do you, Yitzi, still believe in people?
Yeah, that's a really important question. So I think that, the world is huge. The planet is huge. We have 7 billion people on the planet. And when we look at we look at the aggregate, or particularly when we look at what's trending on social media and we read the news, it looks like the entire planet, looks like the average person is miserable and is in an extraordinary crisis. And that's true. It's true that a lot of people are going through a very difficult time. That's 100% true. There's a lot of crises in the world, but we don't just live on the planet. We live in communities, and we live in families. And when we look at our communities, we don't see these huge crises. We don't see these terrible problems. And the problems that we see, what's trending on Twitter and what's trending on the news, you don't see that in our local community. So I think my point is that we feel overburdened by the entire planet's problems. It doesn't have to be our problem. For sure, we have to do our best to address that, but we can't let it pull us down. I think if we live less online, and we live less in the news, and we we live within our local parochial communities and parochial families. We see people are much happier locally than what you see on Twitter. You see, if you go to a community, you're part of a community, you see people are much less fractious than they are online. So I think that we've replaced the real world with a digital world. And the digital world is an unhappy world, but our local parochial communities have less problems than the whole world. And I think if we would spend more time in the real world than online, we would be happier. And we would see that there's a lot of good. There really is a lot of good. That of course there are problems, but I think more people are happier than not, and more people are good. Of course, more people are good than not. And
can you share that? I mean, these communities you're speaking of, are you expecting us to share those things with other people in hopes that it grows?
So I'll give you a simple example. So, I think human beings, we are Homo sapiens. We're hardwired to be gregarious and social beings. If we live in solitude, we wither away. Solitary confinement is a extreme mental pain, because we're designed to living in company of others. So as an example, say I'm Jewish. I go to synagogue every week. I go to synagogue every day. I'm part of a community, and these are my friends. And I think people are happy. People are living lives, and I don't feel like the world's falling apart because I have this supportive community. Every day, I'm part of a group that studies ethics, and I'm part of a group, and it's part of this thriving community, and people are happy, people are growthful. So I think that we're forgetting the value of being part of a group, being part of a community. Like today,
You're
a lot of people
about isolation. You're talking about 100%. Isolation.
Yeah, I think that people like their default community is maybe their gym, and that's it. Maybe their workplace. But those aren't always ideal communities. I think if we could find something that you could be part of a group that you find meaningful, I think that if your community is your political party, it's going to feel like the world's falling apart. And again, politics is important, but that shouldn't be your only identity as a partisan. Yeah. Your identity should be part of another community, and then you'll see there's so many great things that are going on.
That's well said, Yitzi. Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. We're really grateful.
Kevin, it's really an honor to be here, and thank you so much for these wonderful questions and this wonderful interview.
Yes, good luck with your venture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yitzi. Take care.
My pleasure, man. All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
My takeaway from this conversation is quite simple, and that is that Yitzi, lives in a community. He is expanding that community through his magazine and tapping into a resource that oftentimes isn't tapped into perhaps as deeply as his magazine is going. And at the same time, he's encouraging us to become a part of whatever community makes us whole, as opposed to remaining isolated in our little worlds. Because even though we live in a world of 7 billion people, like he said, it's very easy to remain isolated, and that way you become fearful.
Exactly. And I think, the whole point, I think the message really was loud and clear about extending your community, make it meaningful, and it doesn't need to be in your workplace or something that's going to cause additional stress, but to just make it joyful and something that you feel connected and that you belong to. So he really opened my eyes to his world and what he's trying to do, and he's doing it very successfully. And if you'd like that episode, we encourage you to subscribe to Believe in People as we believe in you. Thanks for joining us.
And become a part of our world. Thanks.